Like, I wanted to give this beach read thing a try. This book is kind of bad. So I'm going on a day trip with my family to the Hamptons at the end of this week, and I kind of wanted something to read that wasn't like too serious. Like, I wanted to give this beach read thing a try, and I was in my public library and I came across like a couple books that I thought would be kind of on theme for this. So one of them is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. So I first read this book when I was in like 4th grade, and I remember enjoying it, but something tells me that my opinion of it will have changed a little bit. I picked it up, honestly, because I saw like a trailer for the TV adaptation or the film adaptation of it that's coming out on YouTube, and I was like, what the heck? It's kind of on brand, it's kind of on theme, so let me pick this up. I also picked up The Summer I Turned Pretty books, like all 3 of them. I haven't seen the show. I've only seen clips of it, like on Instagram and TikTok and stuff. It's not really my thing, but season 3 seems to be like taking the world by storm, so I kind of figured like I'd give it a shot. I've actually read the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series by Jenny Han, and I thought it was okay. Like, I remember thinking it was all right. I had fun with it. And I actually loved the To All the Boys movies, so I figured I might give it a shot. We'll see. I'm gonna start with We Were Liars and try to read The Summer I Turned Pretty. I'm a little apprehensive about this, to be honest, because I like flipped through these books and I just was reminded of like why this genre isn't really my thing. Like, YA isn't really my preferred genre, if you can call it a genre. But we'll see. We're trying new things this summer, so this will be my project, my beach reads project for August.
I was like, why is there a K next to Hangul? I was like, why is there a K next to Hangul? Because her surname is Han. I forgot. Americans think it's K. It goes Han.
Oh, that's terrible.
Hangul, and then it goes Kennedy.
It's gonna fix it so fast.
Yeah.
Did you want anything like
is Heathcliff? What? Gat is Heathcliff? Heathcliff. Like from Wuthering Heights? Gat is Heathcliff? Gat thinks I do not know him, and maybe he... Did it? Was it always written with like each sentence being one paragraph?
It always was.
Oh my god. Okay guys, I finished We Were Liars. I'm here at the library to return it because I finished it. I also made some notes. And it was not good, guys. This book is kind of bad. So basically this book is about Katie Sinclair and the Sinclair family. And the Sinclair family is like this old money, wealthy, privileged, white American family that spend their summers in Beechwood Island, or on Beechwood Island, which is this like New England coastal town, but they own, like, Beechwood Island is like private property, so they have their own island. And this book focused specifically on Katie and her two cousins, Mirren and Johnny, and Johnny's like Johnny's half cousin, Gat. So Gat is not related to any of them by blood. And these four are the liars. These four are like best friends. And Katie eventually ends up falling for Gat. I want to start on a positive note and say that this book, at the very least, kept my attention throughout. However, there are so many areas where it like drops off into like stanzas. So for the most part, the book is written in like traditional prose, like what you would expect from a novel, but then it just like drops off with no rhyme or reason into these like little bits of like what feels like poetry, because there are like these random line breaks and like random punctuation and commas. And you know, that's fine. Like, I'm actually, you know, I'm a fan of mixing poetry and traditional prose into a novel, but I feel like it was like the randomness for me. Like, it felt very arbitrary. It felt like the only places she was doing it was areas where she just wanted to give like dramatic effect. Okay, also, there's this like recurring motif, I don't know what the word is, but there's this like recurring bit. I'll just read it to you. Johnny, he is bounce, effort, and snark. Mirren, she is sugar, curiosity, and rain. Gat is contemplation and enthusiasm, ambition, and strong coffee. This is how she describes them, and this is her conceptualization of them, and it shows up constantly. Like, it repeats itself on purpose. Like, this is supposed to be like sort of a very important like motif, and after a while it just starts to get corny. It starts to feel a little hokey, and it's not even like really like a good encapsulation of these characters. This is more just like Katie's idealization of her friends. Like, Katie is very privileged. Like, she doesn't know the name of the housekeeper and like gardener at Beechwood Island, and she doesn't know any of the names of the staff members who like work on these properties on the island, and sometimes like Gat calls her out on it and things like that. It's not enough. Like, the book still veers into like self-pity and self-righteousness and a kind of general lack of awareness about the positionality of Katie. And I know that's like, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into like a YA book, like a book that's not necessarily written to be like a commentary on like wealth or like class or racism, but it also kind of is. Like, it puts itself there. This is a YA book, but it puts itself in those spaces and then doesn't really have any kind of it doesn't spark any meaningful conversation around it, in my opinion. When she is talking about like her aunt, she is in a relationship with Gat's uncle, Ed, who is Indian American. she references like Beauty and the Beast. She basically creates a metaphor or a comparison where her aunt is the beautiful princess that fell in love with the beast, Ed. It's just so, like, the metaphor is so weird and like kind of horrifying, and then she just moves on. It's just another like quirky little device that she's using to tell her story, and then she just moves on after having compared the uncle of the boy that she's in love with to like an animal being, and it's just kind of strange. Another gripe I have about this book is that, okay, spoiler alert, the liars are dead. Like, the other three, Gat, Mirren, and Johnny, are dead because the four of them, like 2 summers ago from when this book mostly takes place, set fire to the main like estate of the island in like an act of rebellion. But we don't know that as the audience until it's revealed, because Katie is still communicating with basically like the ghosts of the other liars. And that bit of lore is like never really explained. Like there's like no rhyme or reason to these ghosts. Before we find out that they're ghosts in the story, we just know that Mirren keeps getting ill, she can't be out in the sun for too long, and then Johnny just says something about like where they go after this. And I'm actually just gonna read what he says. Johnny goes, "Same place as when you're not here. Same place as we've been." It's like Johnny pauses, scratching his head. It's like a rest. It's like nothing in a way. And that's it. And then we get like no other explanation. So none of the other people in the family know that Katie can see them, which makes you think that they're like hallucinations. Which also I thought, and then I realized that they're hallucinations because they have like their souls that are like operating outside of Katie's control or perception. Like, they're hallucinations, they would be within Katie's but they would control the vision. But they're not, they're ghosts, they're like their own beings, so they're off. I know this book is not really meant to be an exploration of like death or the afterlife or ghosts or supernatural entities or anything like that, but it just leaves so much unexplained, and it kind of just like drives me crazy. What I will say is, I've heard some people say on the internet that the plot twist itself is like really stupid. I don't necessarily think that's true. Like, I think it could be like a pretty powerful, device in literary conversation about like grief, specifically teenage grief. The best thing I can say about this book is that I think it might be a good like entry-level book for younger readers who want to get into mystery or just like looking for a book with like a slightly more complex like psychological level to it. So my first beach read on my list was like a 2.5 out of 5, which is not terrible. If I really, really disliked it, it would be like a 1 or 2 stars, but 2.5 isn't bad. So I'm gonna return this now and probably get started on The Summer I Turned Pretty. And I actually think I picked a pretty good selection of books because We Were Liars specifically is so clearly inspired by the Hamptons and like the culture of the Hamptons and the way that like the general public sees places like the Hamptons like in our like cultural consciousness. So I think it's very much on theme. I had fun with this. I had fun making fun of it. So yeah.
Service. This is an accessible station. The elevator is at the front of the platform.
I am kind of shocked to report that I actually kind of enjoyed the Summer I Turned Pretty series. Like, guys, like, these books are not half bad for a, for what it is. Like, for a YA beach read kind of vibe, there are worse things that you could be reading, I feel like. Now, did I like these books? Would I recommend them to a friend? Probably not. But I do think that there's something to be said for like how it's very aware of what it is. I feel like it doesn't take itself too seriously. It doesn't try to do more than what it's, what it's billed to do. Like, I feel like it's just kind of exactly what you would expect from like a summer vibe YA read. So for those of you who don't know, The Summer I Turned Pretty is a YA trilogy by the author Jenny Han, and it was adapted into a TV series a few years ago, and it was very, very successful. And the story follows a teenager named Belly Conklin who spends her summers on Cousins Beach with the two Fisher boys, or the Fisher family rather, and her mom and her brother Steven. And it kind of just follows her as she navigates falling in love with the two Fisher boys at the same time, kind of. It's like the love triangle between Belly, Jeremiah Fisher, and Conrad Fisher that drives the story. Jeremiah is a year older than her, and I believe Conrad is a year older than Jeremiah, so 2 years older than Belly. And, shenanigans ensue. They've been going to Cousins Beach since she was very, very little, and she's had a crush on Conrad for as long as she can remember. I spent the first 2 books like reading and wondering what the hell Belly even sees in Conrad, because he's so brooding and like detached and like doesn't give her any attention and ignores her and hurts her, and it's like, Belly, like, why? Belly has this schoolgirl crush on Conrad that begins when she's like 8 or something, and it never quite goes away. So I guess in universe it kind of makes sense, but we as the reader are never given like any kind of persuasive details or content about why Conrad is all that in a bag of chips. Like, we don't really, like, I didn't really understand the appeal. It doesn't really start to happen until like the 3rd book, when Conrad really starts to help her out and listen to her and, like these sort of basic things that he should have been doing all along, but he finally starts to do them in the 3rd book, and he starts to put her needs above his own and things like that. What I will say though is that I feel like there are little details in the show that aren't in the books that I think actually make the show a little worse. Like, for example, I mean, I guess this is a spoiler, but spoiler alert, in the books, Belly's best friend Taylor is not in a relationship with her brother Steven, and they are in the show. And I feel like that kind of makes the story a lot better in my opinion, because Taylor is allowed to kind of just be Belly's friend and have very little to do with her brother or even the Fisher boys, even though she kind of has like a thing for Jeremiah like way in like book 1. But it's such a minor plot point, and even when it's happening, the focus is more on like how this affects Belly and Taylor's friendship, as opposed to, oh, another love triangle between like Taylor, Jeremiah, and Belly, for example. Like, that doesn't happen. I haven't seen the show, but from what I've seen of it, I feel like Taylor is Steven's girlfriend, and like that's her story kind of, and that doesn't exist in the books, which I feel like gives the reader time to focus on Belly and Taylor's relationship a bit more. And Laurel is a badass. Like, Belly's mom, Laurel, is so iconic, and she's like the only voice of reason in Belly's life. I also really liked the relationship between Belly and her mom. Like, it was really genuinely interesting to me and like genuinely compelling. And I feel like there is enough time spent in the book actually fleshing it out. One thing that I kind of forgot to expect though in this book is that a lot of the humor is very dated, and it's not politically correct at all, and it's very offensive, especially in the first book. It came out in 2009, so maybe that makes sense, but I felt like the humor was kind of in poor taste, And because the humor is in poor taste and it's told from Belly's perspective, it also doesn't help Belly's likability at all. Yeah, I guess also in general I should mention Belly's not a very likable character in my opinion. She definitely suffers from like 2010 Tumblr girl syndrome where she's very like, I'm not like other girls and like I want to go to prom in my Converses type energy. She doesn't actually say that, but like the energy is there. So if you guys are looking for like a fun book to read to like wrap up your summer that isn't gonna make your head hurt and it's very easy to get through, and you want to just get invested in like a silly little summer romance love triangle thing, I do recommend this series. Also, another thing I was thinking about, just having read We Were Liars and the Summer I Turned Pretty series, I just think it's so interesting and so funny, the chokehold that like the New England beach town has on all of us, like on our cultural consciousness. Like we are so obsessed with it. That's why these books get published and then do so well, even though We Were Liars and The Summer I Turned Pretty are two completely like tonally different books. I feel like the response to this might be, oh, it's not that deep, but what I have been thinking about though is that I feel like we need to be careful about not like over romanticizing New England wealth, coastal town, old money, whatever, because I think it's, you know, we don't need to elevate a type of location or a type of lifestyle or type of community over the other. I think it also makes for subpar storytelling. I think if writers become overly dependent on an image of a place to like prop up their writing and prop up their story, which is very much true for both of these books or both of these series, the stories just won't be very good. I don't think it's possible to write a truly great story if it's so dependent on sort of, you know, this romantic view that we have of certain objects in certain places. And I know we all have it, but I don't think you can base an entire story on it or around it. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if I should watch these adaptations, like the movie and the TV series for We Were Liars and The Summer I Turned Pretty. We'll see. Maybe that'll be my next project.